and then you're listening to this episode and you realize you have not done anything in those first 3 months of the year, it's time. Welcome to the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm Honey. I'm a coach working primarily with women and specializing in aligned business, personal transformation, and embodiment. Each week here I'll be sharing business strategy, business advice, tips and tools for you to think more deeply, for you to get more self-aligned, and for you to start your week in the most conscious and intentional way possible. In this week's episode, expect some motivation, some of a reality check, and a mild little butt kick. So if you're here and ready for that, stick around. To begin with, I wanted to offer my recommendation, and today is less of a recommendation and more of a tidbit of advice. And that bit of advice is to get off the internet and go out into the real world, in public, maybe in places and communities that you don't normally hang out in. Now, why am I telling you to do this very funny, silly thing? Because in my DMs and in my client sessions over the last month, I have increasingly been having conversations where I've needed to explain to people how algorithms work. Why is that appropriate? Why is that something that you should care about? Because what happens on the internet is that, especially on apps like Instagram, like TikTok, YouTube, we are fed more of what we engage with, what we follow, what we like, what we watch, our watch time. We're fed more of that. And what that results in is an echo chamber where you think that there are a lot more people doing what you do than there are in terms of ratios and percentages within the wider community. So what am I saying here? I'm saying I have frequently had conversations with women saying things like, I don't want to be another voice contributing to so much noise in this industry. Why are we so obsessed with my industry or my offering? Why, how am I to compete with so many people in such an oversaturated market? Now, for some of those people, the market is oversaturated. If you're operating in an oversaturated market, you need to be extremely specific and extremely brave with the unique proposition of your offering and with your target audience. If what I just said means nothing to you and you're in your business and you have no idea what the hell I mean, you need to jump onto coaching, because you're going to be heading downhill quick if you don't understand that. And what this is doing, this echo chamber, this self-feeding similarity, is making women second guess themselves, holding themselves back, not contributing as much as they would like to, and also, it's taking some of the wind out of their sails, because maybe they have a great idea or maybe they have a concept that they want to share and they're just like, oh, why would I bother? And it's really, really silly. It's really, really ridiculous. And we need to understand algorithms, understand the internet, understand social media, and understand the real hard physical world out there. Because most often what you offer is a niche market. And what you offer is, while on your social media you might think everyone's on top of it, all of these people don't need my help because they're already progressed in the field that I'm offering. That is generally not the case for the broader, wider community. And, for instance, things like meditation. Yes, it's getting more popular. Yes, in recent years, it's become more of a accepted health trend. Most people don't have a dedicated daily meditation practice out there in the real world. Okay, so we need to think about, everyday Joes and en masse, rather than what we're agreeing to be filtered to on social media. All right. I hope that helps, and I hope that if you're someone who's been comparing yourself or holding yourself back or having this thought of like, how can I contribute to such a noisy space, that this makes you take a second to think, step back, take a week or two off of social media seriously, and start afresh with a more grounded and realistic perspective. Okay, done with that part. Let's get to the butt kick. All right. I know that you love setting goals. I know that you love the ritual and the experience of setting an intention. I know that you're probably really good at both of those things, and that you are also probably really methodical, and you probably have a beautiful process. I know I do, and I know the hundreds of women who are using their monthly mood notion board do. They make it this consistent ritual. I also know that a huge chunk of you will change your goal and your intention so frequently that it is almost impossible to get anywhere on that meter of success, okay? I also know that as much as you love talking about and planning and organizing and setting goals and intentions, you really, really avoid and do not like talking about checking in on them, reviewing them, analyzing what happened, and moving forward. How do I know this? Data. The data in the back end of my business shows this clearly from multiple areas. I could point to 15 different data points that proves to me that this is very much true for the vast majority of people who are engaging with me on the internet. And not only that, but also I see it every single day with my clients. And it's one of the reasons why, something to explain about how I coach is that you choose 1 to 3 intentions, big ones, when you work with me. And we have a shared spreadsheet that we're always checking with those things. And every few weeks, I'm going to check in with things, and I'm going to say, maybe this needs to change because of this circumstantial experience. Maybe now that we've got a bit further in, you'll realize that this isn't really an achievable goal right now. But often what I'm doing is I'm actually going, do you remember that this is what we're working towards? Are you still kind of keeping that as your guiding light? Because so often, and one of the most frustrating, the worst experiences as a coach is to be working on a goal with someone that you both agreed to, and 4 weeks in, that person has silently changed their goal and is no longer on the same path with you, and everything needs to be redone. And one of the reasons why I think women are always changing their goals and their intentions is to avoid the accountability and the follow through of actually sticking with something for as long as it requires to be stuck with in order to be successful. And also this concept of uprooting, which I've talked about quite a lot, which is where you're more comfortable in the creative process than you are in the consistency, the doing, the sitting with things for the long term. And of course also because patriarchy, from many different angles and in many different reasons, in a patriarchal culture, will pressure you to not take yourself seriously. So when you are, as a woman, when you are setting a goal, you're taking yourself seriously. How do you no longer take that seriously? You chop and change. You don't review it. You don't be accountable to it. So I know that about you. So maybe you'll stop listening to this podcast right now, this episode. Maybe you'll even unfollow me because of how upfront and how confronting it is for someone to say to you, hey, let's actually check in on those goals rather than setting more, rather than changing it. Let's actually analyze what's happened so that 1 year or 3 year goal doesn't get pushed out every single year to the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 1 year. And the point of me doing this today specifically is that we're a quarter of the way through 2023. All right. If you're looking at financial quarters, the UK has just finished their financial year, so they've had their last quarter. Australia's a bit funky with our quarters, so I'm not going to talk about Australian quarters because they're a bit funny. We've had, 3-4 months, one full season, and 90-ish days, okay? So I bet, and if you were working with me or if you were in Founder Space and you took our yearly planning workshop, which I will make publicly available soon, if you're interested in that yearly planning workshop, send me a DM so that I know, and that kicks me up the butt to get it out there. You would have set long-term goals and monthly, if not quarterly, specific tasks for yourself in order to stay on track. I want you to spend some time today reviewing how much of those things have actually happened. How many of those things have you actually stuck to? And number one, if you've done them, even if they're teeny tiny little things, or you've made progress towards them, even though you haven't maybe completed them like you would hope to, pause and give yourself a huge pat on the back. Go and buy yourself a present. Take yourself out for a hot chocolate croissant. Like, whatever it is, do something to stop and smell the roses and thank yourself and have gratitude that you committed yourself to finishing that goal, because we never do that as women. That's something else we do. We hit goals, and before we've even finished or celebrated them, we're on to the next thing. If you're looking at your first quarter goals and nothing has happened, firstly, maybe you had a big change. Maybe you had a big realization and you made a more aligned choice, and that direction changed things. For instance, for myself, a lot of my first quarter plans in my business were around my membership offering Founder Space. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast. I know I've talked to clients about this. A little bit of back end into my business, a little bit of me being really transparent. The day that I was to launch Founder Space, I was in the shower and I had this big realization, fuck, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to be accountable to people for 2, 3, 4 hours a week. It's just the opposite of kind of my values and my intentions, because I don't love being on camera and I don't love being held to a certain time. Of course, I love doing it with my one-to-one clients, but they're paying a premium for that service, so it feels reciprocated and it feels like a really healthy exchange. With the membership, what people were receiving for what they were paying was just astronomical. The kind of individualized strategic business advice I was giving in that membership, because I'm a generous person and I find it really hard to not be generous to a fault my whole life, I realized, this isn't going to work. By the time I got out of the shower, 6 people were already in that membership. So I thought, all right, I'll give it 3 months and then I'll review. And so when I was planning for my year, I had planned to do a lot of marketing for Founder Space in this first quarter. I think it was January or February, I'm not sure, I can't remember. But I got to my calendar and it said 3 months of Founder Space, do a review. Do you still want to do this? Is it worthwhile? Do you feel like you're being remunerated for what you're giving? No, I didn't. No, I don't want to do this. And part of me was like, you know what, stay on for another month, because just be professional and just hold that space. And I was just having such a visceral body reaction to it that I just closed it that day. And I just sent a personal email to every single member, and I offered them a free 30-minute coaching call as, a way to exchange any payments that they had paid toward it, which was obviously much more valuable than what they had paid. And every single member was so great about it and so understanding. And most of them said, yeah, I can see you were giving a lot for what we were paying, and they were totally fine with that. But why am I telling you that is because sometimes goals change, and they can change from a deeply grounded, embodied and aware long-term thinking process. So for instance, part of you'll always think with memberships is it could become really big and it could become a really big breadwinner. When I had my yoga membership, that was almost $5,000 a month. So that more than covered rent and business costs for the month. And then anything else I did was on top of that. And it could and it would, but I had to think about my energy and my health at the time and what could I have as a realistic expectation. And also, it's, part of the reason why I closed my yoga membership and the spiritual community was because of having to be online at nighttime when I really wanted to be resting. And the beautiful community and founder space, I'm so grateful for, it just so happened that they ended up mostly being UK and Europe. So that meant that, again, I was doing calls at night, and it was the total opposite to my original intentions for that offering. So I'm telling you all of that to say that goal changed, and that meant I had to redirect my energy and replan the first 3 to 6 months of the year. So a little bit I'm doing what I'm telling you that we shouldn't do, but I think it's different when it comes from a strategic, embodied, is this value aligned? Is this aligned with the standards that I have for my life place? Then I've changed my mind place. So that might happen. You might have made changes, and that's fine, but you need to really honestly analyze and examine, why did I make that change? Where did it come from? And did I readjust in its space, or did I just go into kind of a void state and not do anything? But if you're looking at your first 3 months goals of the year, your first quarterly goals, and absolutely nothing has happened or almost nothing, I implore you to sign up for one-to-one coaching. In an ideal world, it would be with me. Whatever. It's not with me, it's with someone else. You need help. You need the help from someone who is external, from someone who has more space between them and your business, someone who's less close to it, less emotionally entangled in it, to get you out of this cycle and into making consistent and healthy action. If you're someone who, feels like they haven't been able to show up fully, and then you're listening to this episode and you realize you have not done anything in those first 3 months of the year, it's time. This is an analytical piece of data to tell you that you can't do it on your own. I think I would have been year 2, maybe, of my business when I first started seeking coaches and mentors. And I have never had a time in my business since without them. And they have propelled me forward so vastly much quicker than I ever could have done it myself. And, maybe you're a really good self-starter and maybe you're really organized, and just having someone who you're accountable to can just be enough, Or maybe you're someone who really doesn't know where they should be directing their energy, or if you have a pretty good feeling that you're directing energy into not the best places. For instance, a little tidbit that I realized today, I'm always looking at marketing, and I'm always looking at where is the relevant and best place and places that I need to be in order to be visible, in order to get into contact with, those really juicy, beautiful clients who align so well with me and who we get along with each other just so gloriously. And, I will totally admit, every few months I'm like, maybe I should be pushing my Instagram. Maybe I should be plugging out tons of content, because I have seen some people grow through doing that. I'm always going to question if they've bought followers for how fast they've grown. I've watched a few people do that, and it was questionable, the speed. But then I realized the other day, my Instagram following and engagement rate has not changed in almost 3 years. So in that time, I would have gone through periods where I was really pushing it and I was delivering a lot. And then I would have also periods where, like right now, I'm not dedicating many resources to it because I just do not see it as a valuable space for me to be investing my time and energy. A coach probably would have been able to say that to me if I specifically wanted to talk about, growing my Instagram. But that's one of those things that when you don't have someone external to you, or you don't really spend the time to think about it, you could just be pouring your energy endlessly into this leaky bucket that is just giving you nothing back. And that's what I see all of the time. All of you who have businesses, who have followed me for a while, or you look at every one of my stories, or maybe we've DM'd, or maybe you've inquired about working with me, not feeling ready yet, I see and I watch what you're doing, and almost all of you are doing that. The energy is just endlessly being poured into areas that are going to give you so little back. And this is this negative self-feeding cycle where if you give your all to something and it gives you basically nothing back, of course you're going to feel less inspired and less motivated to continue. So that's something that working with a coach, especially being in a program like my Subtle Alchemy program, which is really about getting pristinely strategic and intentional with what you're doing in your business or in your life. So this is my kind of call to action, call to arms to say, sweetheart, if this is you and those goals are not moving and they're getting pushed back and back and back, you need the help of someone outside of yourself. You need to seek coaching. You need to seek a coaching program. Stop thinking that you can do it all on your own. I know for a lot of people, coaching can be really expensive, and that's one of the reasons why I offer group trainings and group coaching containers. I've got another one coming up in June or July. But what people don't kind of understand in their head is that, for instance, I was chatting with someone the other day and she made the very real and very true statement that to work with me would have been like 2 of her whole invoices for the year. And yes, that feels really scary. That feels really lack. But what if working with me meant that you got 25 more invoices every year or every 6 months than you do now? Would those 2 invoices be worth it? Would it be valuable? And if you never do business strategy, you will never grow. If you are stuck in these limiting cycles of not completing things and not being consistent, you're not going to be able to get out of them yourself, okay? So this is real talk. This is a kick off the butt. This is a warm, gentle hand patting your shoulder and saying, it's okay, you haven't done anything wrong, but if you want to move forward, you have to make a choice here. Do you want to stay in this exact same position that you've been in for a long time, doing it all on your own? Or are you ready to grow and scale and start succeeding and start building that momentum and that healthy reputation with yourself? And if you're concerned about money, ask you, what is that worth? What is your confidence, your self-worth, standing on your own 2 feet, being independent? What is it worth? And if you're ready, you know where to find me. You can book in a free alignment chemistry call for 15 minutes with me. I'll pop the link in my show notes. And if there's no times in your time zone, just send me a DM. We'll work it out. It's no big deal. Stay tuned for next week. We have a guest coming in next week to get your mind out of hyperfixating on social media as the only place to advertise your business. All right. Have a beautiful week. And if this has resonated, please get in touch on the DMs. I would love to chat about it. Please share it with anyone that you know who's really struggling to meet their own goals. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today. I hope that this episode has been helpful or inspiring or motivating for you to continue with your week in a really intentional way. I am always here to support you. I have many tools that are available to you right now at the click of a button, and I of course also offer trainings and one-to-one coaching. If you would like any more information on that, please check out my show notes or send me a DM. And I also wanted to let you know that if you have been enjoying the podcast, please leave a 5-star review in order to go into a competition or a draw to win access to my self-alignment workshop. The self-alignment workshop is my signature kind of start here tool that I suggest for absolutely everyone, whether you're a business owner or not. It will get you aligned with your values, and every single person that takes this and embodies it finds it to be incredibly empowering and confidence building. It's valued at 88 Australian dollars, and I will be giving one of those away for free every month, drawing from everyone who leaves a 5-star review. If you would like to go into that draw, please make sure you screenshot your review and send it to me, especially if you're overseas, because I don't always see those right away. You can send it to me via DMs and then you'll go into the draw. Otherwise, please share the podcast with anyone who you think it will help. Get it out. Let's connect with our community and also kind of share these tools and these ideas that will just make us a more aligned and intentional group of women. Have a beautiful and aligned day.